I just went for like a little snacky snack before I started recording because I'm like, I feel good, but I feel like I could have a little bit more energy. So I got a little double espresso, and I want to say double espresso drinkers, I feel there is a similarity between the double shot drinkers and the people that like a tequila shot because it is like a punch in the mouth. And then I got like a little chalky hazelnut Loco Love and some dried cranberries. So the cranberries are gone. I'm lying. I actually bought 2 Loco Loves. So I've just eaten one of those. I've got my coffee. I'm feeling good. Let me just have a quick little sip. Fucking fantastic. So we've got a hot little episode, and for the life of me, I cannot remember who gave me this idea. But if you always give me podcast ideas, know that I am listening, know that sometimes I write them down, but everything is filed in this brain of mine. And today, one of these little ideas bubbled to the surface. Now, I was standing in my bathroom looking at myself naked, and I was like, your midsection is looking good. And I was noticing this after my shower. I was touching my back and I was like, oh, your back is feeling like really nice and defined and round your core. And I'm like, oh, like my treadmill era is working. Like I am feeling the effects in my physical body. I was already feeling good, but now I'm like, no, you're putting on muscle. Like you're responding really well to what you're eating and how you're training. And then what I did, I got on the scales and it's so funny. The fucking same. Look, I've lost a kilo, but for the most part, I'm basically the same. And as I was there naked looking at myself with my hands on my stomach, I looked in the mirror and I thought, oh my gosh, that podcast episode idea. And someone gave me a podcast episode about like how you know you're in like a business recomposition. Now, if you are new to like the health and fitness, or if you're like, look, I have no idea about this like muscle, fat loss, all of that shit. When we are in like a body recomposition, it's around how are we going to lose fat and gain muscle, all right? And this is why when people say when you're training more, when you're like eating really good food, when you're upping your protein, just forget about the scales and you have to have other markers. And it got me thinking around how this applies so much in business. The amount of times that I will tell someone that they have a good business and they're onto a good thing and they are looking at the scale weight equivalent, which is your business revenue. And there's so much more to business than just revenue. So if you ever feel like that you are working as hard as you can be in your business and you're not actually seeing the tangible results as in cash in the bank, let's talk about how you know you are in a business recomposition. I'm going to start by saying that something that annoys me so much in online business land is revenue and how much people make a month seems to be the marker of if you have a good business or if you don't have a good business. So if you aren't repeatedly having these high income months that are just building upon building upon building, that, you know, that is the benchmark people aim for. Now, because of this, we can really start to obsess about the wrong things in business. This is where I see people do things where they're like, oh, let me go and make $10,000. Let me go and do a fire sale. Let's have a discount. And they'll do all of these like quick win things that will actually fuck up the business that they're building, right? It's like, yes, you've made $10,000, but now you've gone and closed all of these leads that probably are only going to work with you if you give them a discount next time. They're not actually your right client, or you have gone against your own boundaries and standards in order to win this work. And that is not sustainable. We don't want to keep doing that. There are so many like if we are in a body recomposition and we are looking at scale weight, there are so many more things that we can actually look at, right? And I would have this with my clients in my Pilates studio. They would obsess about the scale weight. And I'm like, yeah, but you're standing straighter, like you're really strong. Your body feels really good that you are actually getting out and you are walking every day. Your back pain is disappeared. Your stomach is even flatter because we've actually fixed your posture. All of these things are actually happening. You know, just give it time. And then in 3-6 months, you will look back, you won't even know yourself. And it's the same in business. So this is where we have to move the markers that we have, which is usually looking at revenue and our sales per month. And we have to start to look at other things. This is around like the transformation of multiple different business elements that are all happening simultaneously. And it currently is not showing in your revenue. Now, if you feel like that you are busy doing all the right things, you're like, Peter would give me the tick of approval. She's told me that I'm doing a really good job here. This could be you in a recomposition phase. That being said, don't switch this podcast episode off thinking I'm doing all the right things, because there still can be a couple of other things that you could be doing or potentially could be letting down the results that you're actually having and wanting in your business. So what we're going to look at is I'm going to take you through a couple of the things that you actually really need to perfect if you want to have a really good business and have this effect in your revenue, ultimately your profit, and where it's like you can give yourself like a little bit of a tick. So what could be really fun is it's like, why don't you score each area out of 3? So 3 being, I'm doing this really well. 0 is, I am dead in the ground. Don't even bring out the paddles because I don't even know if you can like resuscitate me. So give yourself a score and we are going to score each one. So the first is the goal that you have in your business. What are you working towards? What does this look like? What is your vision? What is your boundaries and your standards? This is very important because the amount of times that I will speak to a business owner that says that they desire to have a big business. They're like, I want to make $50,000 a month. When I look at the bills that I have and the life that I want, this is going to cover everything really nicely. But then when you actually look at the plan they have, it tells a different story. And there is a real disconnect between the plan that they're actually executing versus the vision that they have for what they want. And this is where, if a client tells me that they want to make $2 million a year, we start with that, even if they are yet to make a single dollar. Because the problem is, it is a completely different training plan. Like if we are looking at this from a fitness perspective, if you have someone that wants to get into bodybuilding versus someone that wants to get into, like long distance running, that is a completely different training plan. So this is where in business, you want to make sure that you are actually planning to the goal that you want and not the goal that you think that you should have with that in the back of your mind. Because if you aren't working that way, this is where you're going to continually get tripped up. Now, how you know that you're actually on track is that the goal that is in your head and what you are working towards matches. And I don't mean that it's like every quarter, let's just pretend that you're like, I want to make, again, let's just stick with the 50K months. I want to make 50K months. If you're currently at 10K, it's not like I'm saying, great, at the end of this month, go to 50K, but you have your little goalposts in place so that you will eventually hit that. So it's like this month, you're like, great, let's just stabilize at 10K. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to prep for something for the next month, or let me go and create that offer. But if we were to kind of like step back and look at your whole business plan, it's that everything that you are doing is reverse engineered for the goal that you want to ultimately happen. So you can give yourself a score out of 3, 3 being, I have a goal and I look at the actions, I can look at my diary and I can see that everything that I am doing in my diary reflects the goal that I want in my business. Great. If you are doing that, baby, you are in recomp phase. Now, where you would get a 0 here is that you are wanting, but there is no plan. You are desiring in your head, but we can't actually see this reflected in anything in your business. And where you would be kind of in the middle of this is that you want something, but you're in your head and what you're actually doing, your actions aren't actually matching up to the goal that you want to have. Or you're still moving forward with a whole lot of shoulds. Like, I should do this, I should do that, maybe I should hold off doing this. And you're letting a lot of noise come in and impact your goal. Then from here, we go to our offers. And again, this is following very much my goals process. I've got a couple more little points in here that we're actually going to add. How many do we have? We've got about 7 things that we're going to cover. But when we look at your offers and, any part of building a business, we do follow this goals process, because if you think about it, the offers that what you are selling make the goal happen. Therefore, this is why we always have to start with the goal that you want. There is no point us selling things if it's not in line with, the outcomes that you want in your business. The offers that we are selling, of course, is a vehicle for transformation for our clients, but this is also the vehicle of transformation for us and the goal that we're doing in our business, right? Like if you want to make $1 million, the offer is the vehicle for that to happen. So we can have a look at how our offers have evolved. If they are priced for profit, if they're scalable, if they're on brand, if they are highly unique, and if it's something that people really know us for. The amount of times that I will meet people and I'll say, give good email, or someone will say, give good email, and they'll say, oh my gosh, I've heard about you. Oh my gosh, my friend's in that. This has taken quite a few years to establish this level of credibility with this beautiful offering. And it was something I did really, really consistently. Now, we had a few stages when I was releasing this where stuff just wasn't working well. Like we've had a few launches fall over. I've had some where I have had no profit. And I know you're like, how can you have no profit when you really have no overheads to run this? Because it's your time, babe. It's your time. And the time spent in the launch absolutely did not return in the sales that I wanted to have. But I was still like, you know what? This is okay. This is just a bad week. It's a bad launch. It's not a bad business and it's not a bad offer. So what we want to look here is, if the next part of our little pipeline is offerings, before we even get to the clients, before we even get to anything else, I want you to look and be like, are the offers and what I am selling, are my offers, products and services in line with the goal? And if I put myself in the end point of what I'm really working towards, can I see myself selling and doing all of the things that I'm selling at the moment? Now, some of you will be like, yes, this feels really good, but you'll know that there'll need to be a couple of tweaks. Potentially it's a price increase and you're like, look, I know this is coming, but this is probably going to be 6 months or a year down the track. That's fine. Remember back to what I said in goals. If it's in the plan and if it makes sense, if we zoom out and everything is kind of like working towards this goal, perfect. But we can look at what we are selling and ask, is it aligned? Is this a really good vehicle to get us to the goal that we want? And what I want you to think about, a fun thought, I love to challenge my clients with this, is if we were to add no more team and no more working hours, do we still think that that goal could happen? Now, I am not saying that I expect if you want a multi-million-dollar business that you're not going to have any team, but what this will get you to do is look at what you are selling differently and potentially getting you to think about scale more instead of, trading output of labor in order to get money, which is a very dicey game because as soon as labor leaves, so if you get sick or your team leaves, then that also means that that is going to affect your revenue. So what you can do is give yourself a score out of 3. When we look at the offers and products and services that we're selling, how do we match up? Now, how you know if you are in a recomp phase is that you can look at what you're selling and you may be like, this is a really good offer. Maybe it needs a few tiny little tweaks, like maybe the messaging is not perfect. Maybe, I do need to have a little price increase, but it's a good offer. I want you to just forget about selling it for the minute, okay? So even if you have not sold something, just forget about it. It's really interesting that I had last year, I had a phase in Business Bang where all my clients either got pregnant or moved overseas. And I found myself without any clients. And it's really interesting that it got to me and then it didn't get to me. And then it got to me, it kind of came in waves. And I've never in my life had a period where I've had no clients. I think I ended up having 3 or 4 months off. I will say we were fine. Bills were paid. There was no financial stress. This is what we can work towards with you. But I'd never lost sight of the product that I was selling. So I didn't look at Business Bang, which is where most people now work to me in like a one-to-one or a small group capacity. And I didn't look at that and think, oh, this is a really bad offer. I looked at it being like, this is a really good offer and this is going to be the vehicle to help your clients get their goals and for you to get your goals. But currently you've got a little bit of a lead problem and it's a little bit of a timing issue. Now, where this would be different is if Business Bang, instead of being $1,500 a month, was $50 a month. And if I was feeling like that I was working my ass out, I was doing heaps, and I'm like, I'm never going to make this work. You can see there that if I have $1 million a year goal and I want to have, small groups, I want to have an understanding of every client, what they're selling, I want to remember stuff. There is a disconnect between the offer and the goal and the actual reality. So give your offers and what you're selling an audit. If you want a tip, ideally we should be doing this quarterly where we're kind of zooming out, we're looking at everything that we're selling and we're kind of elevating stuff. It's like things are getting a little bit more, it's like this next stage of refinement. And sometimes it's like we won't actually completely axe an offer, but we'll just move it behind the scenes. So I, for example, have a content marketing course, which you probably don't even know about, called Web Patch Content. And if you're like, how come you never talk about it? Because in the content marketing space, it is very, very, very loud. And for me, I was like, let's just focus on Give Good Email because I can have really good transformation. We will eventually bring Web Patch Content out. You can 100% buy it, but it's just not something, it's like we've moved it from the main character into like a backup dancer. It's still there, but it's just not, it's not being fucking cut from the act. But there have been some things where have been cut. So even if you've got really good offers that are working for you, but they're not selling, that is still that is a sign that you are in a recomp phase, because it may just be a little bit of time before all of a sudden you have 3 people that just come out of the woodworks and they want to work with you. I want to say too, where I think business and transformation of your body is different is that when you are doing anything for your health, like let's just say you're working on your flexibility, you're going to see that reflect in how you feel and how you move. If you go down to touch your toes and you are a little bit further or your legs are a little straighter, you are going to see that change and you are going to feel that change. So you know straight away you are getting direct feedback that your training is working. Where business can be a little more tricky is that we don't have that because we are relying on other people to make decisions, to give us money, to buy our products, buy our services, and ultimately, make our goals happen. We don't get that direct feedback. Like we don't have people in our DMs saying, hey, this offer's fantastic. I actually now need to get my ass into gear and sell more so I can work with you. Or I've scheduled this in like my next like pay cycle that this is a priority purchase. Like I'm going to go and buy this thing. People don't do that. We're not getting that feedback. So this is where for us, it is a skill where we need to look at what we're doing analytically and strategically. And even if we're not getting data because it feels really quiet, it's like we know that we're doing good work. So give yourself a score out of 3. Now, the next category that we look at in goals is lead generation, but we are going to start with visibility and the audience that you have. So I want you to think of all of the platforms of where you currently show up to get new eyeballs, where you're going to get clients. So for me, where is that? It's Instagram, it's LinkedIn, and maybe we'll include, instead of my podcast, because I feel that, people will tend to subscribe from a podcast, they'll come from my Instagram. I'm now putting stuff on YouTube and now I've got TikTok. So I'm looking at these different categories. So I want you to find out where you're currently showing up and where you're visible. Now, signs that you're not in a recomp phase, but you actually just need to get your shit together and get fucking real with yourself is you can't answer that question properly. You're like, well, I'm kind of here, but I'm not really posting. Get real, right? It's like, this is the kind of person that wants to run a marathon that's still sitting on the couch watching David Goggins on Reels. Like, you have to get real with yourself. If you want the results, is the action matching up? And it's like, if I said to you, where are you currently visible? And you only answer Instagram, we have problems. Because if Instagram goes down, the platform just deletes itself or you get removed, all of a sudden, your whole business halts because you are just in one area. Very, very dicey game. This would be like telling yourself, I'm only going to run outside in perfect weather. It's like we need to have some contingency plans. It's like if we are continually relying on training when it's a perfect, beautiful day, we're probably not going to be training all that much because there's going to be a lot of different factors. This is where I would like you to kind of be spread across a couple of platforms. Repurpose your content, absolutely. But remember that you're going to have different audience and they're going to have different behaviors across all of these platforms. So that's kind of like a little... that's like the prep work. So just get clear on, do I actually have that set up properly? So when we're thinking about our platforms, I want you to think about your audience. And we're going to think, are the people that are currently following us our ideal audience? Have I gone and have I actually put out good quality content? Am I conveying myself with my messaging, my visual branding, and who I am in a way where people that could go and buy the offers that we just spoke about will come and find me? Or alternatively, they are serving a different purpose. For example, you may have like a media-based business model where you are an influencer and you are working with companies, okay? It's like the difference here is that if you are an influencer and you are selling that, it's like we can then look at that offer section and the offer is essentially you, but it's also attention. So it is really important for you to ace this category. Now, where you are in a recomp phase is people who are your customer are paying attention. And this is where we want to remove the metric of getting DMs, getting likes, getting comments, getting shares, getting physical praise or comments. And I want you to be like, are these people paying attention? Now, where this is easier is if you are doing email marketing, you of course have subscriber profiles. I can go into my subscribers and I can see how many emails they've got, how many they open, how many they click. This is where it's like, if you know that you're doing like Peter Saris approved emails, that can also be a way for you to assess. So you are going to be in a recomp phase if people are currently paying you with attention. And maybe you've got some like little silent listeners. The amount of people that have come out of the woodwork and purchased from me like a higher ticket offering who have never really liked or engaged with anything that I've done, but they've been quietly consuming, and then all of a sudden they come forward and they're like, hey, I want to buy this thing. Whereas the people for me that comment the most, that really are like out there and they're super visible, they're usually not buying my high ticket stuff, but that's okay. So what we want to look at here is if you're in the recomp phase, you've got attention from the right people. Forget at the minute about how much attention you have. If you're like, oh, I wish I got more likes, fuck that off. Are you getting the right attention? Now, an example of this would be when I first started my TikTok, my first ever video I did was I made my boobs dance. I wonder if I can do this. Oh, there we go. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm doing it. So I've got my breast implants like underneath my muscles, and if I squeeze my pecs, my boobs move basically. And that was my first ever video I put on TikTok was me. I had like a little magic circle because we were in COVID and we were all a bit crazy. I had a magic circle around my titties and I was like making them dance on the magic circle. And I didn't go viral, but that video did so fucking well. I had so many followers, but they're all guys. And it's like, that's fine, but random dudes who want to see my titties dance are not going to buy a Give Good email. Like there's a really, like, sure, there could be one or two, but for the most part, they're just not going to. It's like if I was going to release an OnlyFans where it was like, you know, titty dances on the daily, sure, but I'm not doing that. We're selling business strategy, not boobies. So you can address how that looks. So when we look at your audience and your lead generation, we're not just going to look at the clients and the people that are actually currently giving you money. So look at the last few sales that you've made. And this is where, for me, I do a deep dive. So anytime someone gives me money in my business, even if it's my $35 offer, I will go and I will basically stalk you. And even if I have 20 sales, I will go and stalk all of these people. I will look their website up. I'll look them on LinkedIn. For me, I really want to kind of get to know them. I will always usually, like, people are on my hit list to check in, but I will do a deep dive on all of these people so I can really understand who they are. And I had someone purchase my $35 offer last weekend. She messaged me this week with this beautiful long message basically saying, I binged this offering. It was fucking fantastic. I'm going to work with you. You know, she mentioned Business Bang and she mentioned Give Good Email. I did a little bit of a deep dive. It was really interesting though, because that information was not on her website because she was just restarting her business. And I've had this recently with a few people where they are just restarting. So this for me is why, if you can, I always like to have a conversation with people. So I want you to look at the clients that you've got. And remember, everything that we are doing goes back to that goal. So we're not looking at everything in silos. This is a pipeline. And if we have a problem within this area, we're always addressing where we started. So we think about the goal that we have. We think about the customers that we have. How we know that we are in a recomp phase is that we're actually getting the right people. It may not be the amount of people that we want, but when we look at the people that we are working with, we are like, yeah, this is actually going well. This is my dream client. This is actually randomly, this is like my ideal customer avatar. Okay, then we're going to go to team. Now, this is not going to apply to some of you because you're not going to have a team. That's okay. But if you do have a team, and even if you're like, well, I have a team, which is a VA and she only works with me for 10 hours a month, that's okay, work with them. But how you know you are in a recomp phase is that you have good people and there's a lot of elements that are kind of working really well. And maybe stuff is not 100% ideal, but if we zoom out and we look at the big picture and if we can just refine a couple things, you know that it's going to work for you really well. For example, I have a client at the moment. She's an absolute babe. And when we started working together, I talked to her about, have you ever got all of your staff together? Have you caught up and had like a team meeting? You can talk about stuff happening in your business. You know, get people together. And I said, this is a really good place to work. And she was like, no, I've never done that. But she's like, I've got a really, really good team. And I said, okay, this would be something really, really awesome to have. She implemented it. It had really good success. And now she can keep doing that moving forward. So where an example of, if we're looking at this, it's not working, is let's just pretend that you are in a business. You have staff or you have a team and maybe they just don't talk to you, or maybe you can never get a hold of them, you know? And I think sometimes this is where we are really quick to blame other people. But if we are like the top of the pyramid, we are the CEO in our business, everything that is in that little triangle, I'm really making business here out to be a pyramid scheme, but you know what I mean? It's like anything that happens in our organization starts from the top. So even if we hire someone and they are not doing something, this still comes back to us. This is where you know that you are in a recomp phase when there is something that happens, even if it's not ideal, and you can address it, or you have a process of dealing with a thing, or you can have a difficult conversation and it gets, even if it's uncomfortable at the time, it still gets that desired outcome. I have had this before with my team where something happens and I'm not cool with it and we'll have a conversation with it. And it's a really good sign if what happens next is ideal, is it never happens again, or we can kind of develop a process so it doesn't happen again, or that we do something differently to get the outcome that we want and so it works for them as well. This is a really good sign. A lot of the time people expect that when they have a good business, that everything works perfectly all the time. So I have a random example. When I had my Pilates studio, we had like mats on the floor in the mat room, and I was really anal about them. They had to be lined up and put down perfectly, because if they weren't, some mats were too close together or it was really hard to walk around the mats. And I had this period where I'm like, how come no one is putting the mats down properly? They just weren't. And it's really interesting that quite often people will just get annoyed at their staff and they'll be like, well, they don't do it as good as me, without having the conversation. So what I like to do in circumstances like this is, my mum would because my mum worked for me, Jan would straighten the mats up, right? And they were not right. And I was like, okay, cool. What happens if that mat moves? And she was like, well, that'd be there. And I'm like, great, move those mats together. And I said, now try to walk around them. And she did. And I said, okay, what would happen if you had two guys that were 6'4" on these mats? And she's like, you'd need to walk over the top of them. And I'm like, is that safe and appropriate to do in a class? And she's like, no. And I'm like, great. So what are we going to do? And then I got her to identify that. This for me is like your team recomp stage, because if you can have a conversation and know that you are working towards a desired outcome that you want, even if it feels a little bit clunky, like you have to have a conversation or you're like, how are people not picking up on this? This is clear as day to me. If you can have these conversations, amazing. Where this is not going to go well is if you get to a point where you then can't have conversations with these people. Like I have had team before where I could not get a hold of. I have outsourced work and I literally cannot get a hold of the people. And I'm like, okay, cool. We are not in a recomp phase. Like this is not going well. So if this applies to you, give us a score out of 3. Then we look at our systems and our processes. Let's add tech and automation. So I want you to look at like the technical infrastructure that you have for your business and be like, is this working for me? So this could be something where you've got automation set up in your business, or you have software and this is really good software, but maybe it's a little bit clunky because you're still in the stages of learning how to use it. Maybe you've got automation set up, but you need to get a few more people through. Or maybe you've just got to go and just finely tune some stuff. I've got a really good on-brand example right now. It's like we've changed up how I've shot the podcast. I can tell I'm in a recomp phase because, one, this has taken me so fucking long to do. The other day, I got to a point where I was like, is this worth it? Because how we're recording, it takes a little bit longer. However, we have had amazing feedback on the podcast and how visually beautiful it looks. We've had some people be like, what camera are you using? The quality is sensational. It's 10 out of 10. So for me, I have had external feedback that this is good. And the good news is it's external feedback from, for me, I would say people that are important. So they're people that listen to the podcast. They're my ideal client. They're already a customer. And they're like, I love how the podcast looks. So we've got tech working for me. Now, a sign where you are not in a recomp phase is if you can look at something and you feel like it's not going to get better. For example, I know right now that we will get to a point where I will just be able to do this. Maybe I'll have an in-person assistant and I can go leave, get lunch, and they'll pack all of this up. They'll properly download this and then maybe they'll edit it. Where this won't work is if the process is still going to be clunky and you're just kind of handballing this to someone else, but there's still like a lot of mess. So we want to think with scale, because for a lot of us, we need to consider scale based on the results and the goals that we want in our business. So signs that you are is that you feel like that when you get the hang of something more, it's going to be more efficient and you can see this serving you really well moving forward. You are using tech or systems that when you look at the people that are at a point where you want to be, or they're on a really, they're moving fast to where you want to be. Like you look at your business expanders, maybe that you are using like the systems and processes that they have or that they like to use. Really get clear on what is working for you and what is not working for you when we look at kind of like all of the technical and automated infrastructure and our systems that are holding us together. And again, we can look at the technical side, but then we can also look at the physical processes that we have for things. So if you have a new client that comes on board, what is the process there? If you look at what is the process if someone wants to cancel? What is the process when you are finishing up towards a program? What is the process when you're doing refunds? What I want to say as well is the amount of times that people want growth, they say, I want to grow, and then all this shit happens, and then they fucking hate it. You have to thank yourself for declaring that you want growth, because all of this stuff is happening for you to kind of fix things in your business. You can look at the processes that you have, both automated and like, if it's like a physical process that you have to do, and you can be like, is this working for me? And there is a chance that some of you do not have processes. Like I am doing some work at the moment and I'm continually following people up, and I fucking hate when I have to follow people up. So for me, if I am working with a business and I am following them up, I'm like, this is not a good sign. So if you have people that are working with you that are continually following you up, and you're like, oh shit, I have to do that. Oh crap, I have to do that. You're not in recom. You are still sitting on the couch not doing shit. So you've got to get that cleaned up. Now I want you to have a look at your content and the content that you're putting out there and ask yourself, is this on brand? Is it timeless? Is this forming your body of work? Like I always like to think about, if my whole business was it was an exhibition and a museum and an art gallery, is there this really beautiful timeline showing the maturity of my work? Or am I kind of just doing what every other bitch is doing? Am I seeing myself within my content? Now, I've got a really good example that I'm living at the moment where I know that I'm in recomp. I am in my TikTok era. And it's taking me so fucking long to edit my videos, to think about my videos, and kind of like get some momentum on this app. Now, what's really interesting is, yes, it's taking me a long time to do stuff. Like it's added a couple hours a week to my business, but that's okay because I know that I'm going to get more efficient. And as I grow and get busier, I can then outsource maybe the editing. Or maybe I'm like, no, you're going to kind of develop a better way to do this. Like right now when I'm filming my content, it's a bit clunky because I do multiple takes. Instead of doing multiple takes, I may find that I start doing things a little bit more smoother. Even though I'm not getting that many new followers, like it's only maybe like 1 or 2 a day. I'm looking at the reach with my content and I'm looking at the people who are liking it. And I'm like, cool. We've shifted from, as I said earlier, I had all these rando dudes on TikTok and now I'm like, I've got mostly women. Or if it's a guy, it's like men in marketing. Amazing. Great sign. I'm also seeing this because now I am getting into a habit. I feel like that I've integrated my TikTok era now into like my business. So I know that I have to do this daily. It's now a habit. I did that in less than a week. And I will say too, if you ever want to shift your identity and if you feel like that you really take a long time to integrate stuff, like if you always want to do something and you can't actualize it, fucking work with me because I will hold you to a standard so that does happen. But you can look at your content and be like, even though it's not getting the reach or the results that I want, if I were to get the reach and the results off this content, can I see this kind of like working out? Like if this post were to get, 1,000 likes, could I be like, yeah, I understand that? Or am I like, oh shit, no, this is really shit? Because for me, when I looked at some of my content, I was like, yeah, I could see myself on par with some of my favorite content creators. Like, sure, some of their content is it's edited a bit nicer. It's a bit more visual where they may have like green screens on stuff. But for the most part, I'm like, yeah, you're doing well. Like you are on the path. That is a sign that you are in the recomp phase. Where you are not is if you feel like there is a real mismatch with the content that you are producing and what you're talking about and what you're putting out there now versus the business that you want. Now, ideally, what we want to do is we want that to match the business that we want. So it's really interesting here that I will see people and they don't want to talk about things until they get to a certain point in their business. So they're like, I don't want to talk about this because I feel like that I'm too small to have this conversation, or I feel like I almost need to earn my keep. And I think this is like that whole chicken or the egg thing. It's like you're waiting to get to this point where, say, you get 50,000 followers to talk about the thing. Have you ever thought that what will get you 50,000 followers is to talk about the thing? And when I, for me, made this mental shift, I always thought that, oh, maybe I need to grow a bit more on Instagram or grow a bit more here and then I'll go to TikTok. And I was like, but Peter, maybe TikTok is the reason that you'll grow. Let's try this on and see. And, you know, I've been going hard on this for a week. Like we're doing at the moment in Business Bang, like a 2-week visibility challenge. I've told everyone in there, I was like, you know, in these 2 weeks, I want you to really think about keeping up momentum or trying something different. We're not trying to go viral and get 100,000 followers in 2 weeks. We are just integrating this and trying it on and seeing if it fits. It's like buying a coat in a shop, taking it home and seeing how it works with the rest of our wardrobe. But we're also giving ourselves a chance to just style it and try things on. Now, the next stage is your sales. We know I love sales. Sales comes before the service. As a business owner, you are a salesperson. That is in your job description. You are the business development manager of your business. So sales, nurturing these relationships, networking, and having a sales and a follow-up process is really important. So how you know that you are in the recomp phase is that you are having sales conversations and they are going well, but you are also having sales conversations and you are getting left on red. I think that sometimes we put this expectation on ourselves that we are doing a good job in business if every time we pitch or we have a call to action that people say yes. And people think this of me when I say I sell every day and I think I'm good at sales. I think that I'm good at sales because I still know how to close. I do it regularly. It feels integrated and embodied where I don't want to shit myself every time I pick the phone up and I send someone a voice message checking in. Does everyone say yes? No. Does everyone write back? No. Have I been told no? Absolutely. And if you are in a recomp phase, you are hearing a varied mix of yes, getting left on red, and no. And you are hearing a mix of that repeatedly. You can follow someone up for a year and they're still like maybe. Or no, or they may just be like, oh yeah, it's still not the right time. That's okay. And I think this is where sometimes what can fuck us up the most is it's like we have so much working for us, but we get in our head that if we have a good business, that everyone will say yes to us. And that if we have offers that everyone likes, and if they're amazing, and if we've got like, you know, no-brainer messaging that everyone will say yes, that is just not the case. Because what you can do right now is you can put yourself on a really bad day. Put yourself in a really bad day, a really bad mood. You know, everything in your business is breaking, whatever. Someone comes up with an amazing opportunity, but you have a crisis. You're going to be like, can we just pause this for a second? And the thing is, we never really know quite what is happening with our clients. We never know the full story. So we want to make sure that we are not kind of excessively judging the results that we think that we should have when it comes to sales. So signs that you are in that recomp phase is that you've got a good amount of data and you are hearing no's, is that I actually can look at the output of your week and you can look at the output of your week. And if I said to you, what days did you sell? And if you remove posting a fucking link on Instagram, I want you to think about the sales conversations you're having, the follow-ups that you are having, the discovery calls, the reach outs, the pitching. Where is that in your diary? And if you can't pinpoint anything in the last week or the last month, you're not in recomp. If you can say, I did 20 minutes here, I followed up here, I had a discovery call here, this is happening here, and you have multiple people in your pipeline, if you have a CRM, if I said, how many proposals do you have out at the moment, or have you submitted proposals? Do you have people that you could follow up today? And if you're like, yes, amazing. If you're like, no, or I can't remember, or I have no idea, that's not looking so good for you. Like, we've got to get the paddles out. We've got some resuscitation that we have to do. And I will say, if you've got a really good business and you've got a lot of shit working for you, especially if you have great scalable offers and if you love them, don't let yourself down and your goal down by not doing one of the most important things, and it's selling. People get really funny about this. If you don't want to sell, don't have a business. I'm going to be so honest with you. Like, if you don't want to work through the fact that you don't want to sell, and if you don't want to make these calls to action, and if you say stuff like, I don't want to be salesy, I would maybe get a job within a business where you never have to sell. Because this is why you will see people online that are nowhere near as good as you, but they are having big months or they're having wins. And it's usually the behind the scenes sales work that either they're doing or someone in their team is doing. This doesn't mean that you need to hire a full-time salesperson, but you need to make sure that you are selling. And if you are spending 10 minutes a week on it, that's just not going to cut it. If you are like, I want to see this in your schedule, this should be one of the most important things. And especially if you have every element working for you, you are like tick, 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 and this is dead in the ground. This is what will save your business. Okay. And then our last category is our mindset. So signs that you are in a recomp phase is that even though stuff may not be working for you, you are really good at managing your thoughts. You are good at, I'm not saying that you always need to be positive, but you can look at what's happening in your business. And if there's a not so ideal circumstance, that you are really good at managing your mind and you are managing your emotions and your thoughts to move forward and get a good outcome. Ask yourself, who are you when stuff isn't working well? And this will give you a really good indication if you are in that recomp phase. If you don't actually need any external factor to tell you that you are doing a good job. For me, I could make 0 sales in 1 month, and my belief in my potential and my goal happening does not change. I don't need continual wins to tell me that I'm fantastic. I don't have imposter syndrome. If I were to make $1 million, I wouldn't then suddenly freak out. I'd be like, of course, you've been working your whole life for this. Like, of course this is happening for you. Now, if you were to rewind 10 years ago, maybe not. There was still a lot of self-doubt. Like, I wanted a big business, but if you looked at the self-talk and the thoughts that I have, it wasn't really saying that. And this is where, with your mindset, rather than seeing this as like its own individual category, I see mindset layered over the top of everything. Again, a lot of people will try to like hack their thoughts, but we need to look at them in like every single different category. What we want to make sure is that your thoughts are either positive or they are constructive or they're not kind of like bringing you down. We want you to be your biggest cheerleader, because I'm going to be really honest. If you can't hype yourself up and get yourself in a good state, it is really hard for other people to. When no one else is clapping, you've got to be the one that is supporting you. So if you can look at your thoughts and maybe you've got really good recovery, or maybe you find that you're getting yourself down not as much, like maybe you'd have something really bad happen and it affects you for a month. Maybe now it's only like a week, or maybe it's a day. Amazing. These are all really good shifts. Where it's not good is if the smallest thing happens and then you go on this rant and drama like, well, of course, I want to quit. Everything's fucked. No one wants to work with me. And then you look for all of this evidence to support the narrative that's currently happening. Rewrite a different story. So here is how you know if you are in a business recomposition. You are working differently and you can see so many elements working for you, but the revenue currently hasn't caught up. You have identified what is not working and you are good at strategically fixing that. You have systems and processes in place to audit, refine, and change. You feel excited. Your mindset is good. Even if stuff is not working, you are still really good at moving forward. It's not like you need continual wins to push you forward. You are really good at like controlling the vehicle of your business, even if the terrain is not that fantastic. That you are focused on foundations and investing in that and not so much worried about the quick wins. It's like you just saw someone had a $10,000 day and you're like, sweet, that's really cool for them. I'm eventually going to have that. But right now I'm going to focus on working on this. And that you feel, lastly, you feel confident in the direction that you are heading, even if you have no validation, even if you have no results. You look at the work you are doing and you are like, this is good. everything's on track. That is how you know that you are in a business recomposition. And who knows, you may be listening to this episode and this is the week where everything happens. This is the week where all the results that are yours catch up with you. Oh my gosh, hot stuff. I've loved this. I love you. I love your potential. I love the business you're building. I love that you listen to this podcast, and I love that you love this podcast. As always, I do like praise, and praise does help the podcast get discovered. So if you haven't already, review, share. If you're listening on YouTube, hi, hello, sexies. Leave a comment below. I would love to hear from you. And let me know what you want to hear. What do I love you more than? I love you heaps. I love you more than how sensational it looks outside. I'm going to be honest. Every time I look outside, I feel so fucking emotional. I'm not even having my period, runway to ovulation right now. And I think I feel emotional because I'm overlooking the beautiful Melbourne skyline. And I'm like, you moved yourself from Maitland to here. There was so much belief for you to sell a business, stop a business, and do something for such a long time. Like how long was I doing Pilates for? You know, I started like actually doing Pilates, and I think like maybe 2004 or 2006. I started my course in 2008. I sold my business in 2017. And I think about it, I was like, oh my God, you spent so long doing this, but you still gave it up to have the life that you have now. And that, like, every time I look at the Melbourne skyline and I'm like, you have a business in Toorak. Like, you did that, baby girl. You did that. Like, I love you more than that. I love you more than the feeling of that. And I hope, fucking hell, I hope that you get to experience this too. I want to say too, know that this has not been an easy run. Like, I had a little blip in 2023 where I had no place to live. And it was vile. It was awful. And I had to put like all my stuff in storage and move to fucking Maitland with a suitcase. So it hasn't been easy, but I've still always believed in the person that I could be and the business that I could have. So I love you more than that. I love you more than my sexy little loco loves. I love you more than loco love. Oh my gosh, my favorite loco love. I love the chocolate hazelnut is really good. I like the ganache centers. I'm a bit of a slut for caramel. So there's like a chewy caramel one that's really good. It's like in the blue packaging. And then the caramel shortbread is really nice. There's one that's like a Bounty that I'm not really that keen on. The peppermint is good, but it feels like a bit rich. It's not my favorite. I do like the hazelnut one. That is a good one. So I love you more than that. And I love you more than the little setup that we've got. I'm really feeling this. I'm feeling good about it. So hot stuff. I've loved this. I've loved this so much. I hope you've enjoyed it. As always, let me know your thoughts. Slide into my DMs. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next episode.